am Tia of Arcturus. I will speak with you now. In the span of your current days, there is a new quality to the light that touches your skin, your eyes, and your heart. What you have long called sunlight is revealing itself more fully as a language, as a series of living codes, and as a conversation between your local star and the deeper layers of your being. Where once the radiance of your sun primarily nourished your physical bodies and your ecosystems, it is now more clearly and deliberately interfacing with your subtle bodies, your energy fields, and the higher aspects of your consciousness. Many of you have noticed that when you sit quietly with the light, you do not merely feel warmth, you feel presence. You feel as though something is listening to you as much as you are listening to it. This is because the solar field, as you could call it, is responding more directly to the intentions you hold, to the questions you quietly ask, and to the emotional states you are willing to acknowledge within yourselves. This is the essence of the new communication window. Your star is no longer simply broadcasting. It is co-creating with you. This opening did not appear suddenly out of nothing. You have been preparing yourselves for this interaction throughout your lifetime, and especially since the beginning of the last decade of your linear years. What is different now is that enough of you have expanded your sensitivity, raised your baseline vibration, and cleared enough emotional density that the sun can speak to you in more refined and subtle ways without overwhelming your systems. And this is why you may feel that the light holds answers before you even know the questions you are about to ask. The alignment you are entering now temporarily magnifies this solar dialogue. During this powerful gateway, the light carries specific patterns that help you remember how to listen with your whole body, how to translate intuition into understanding, and how to let your higher self use the solar codes as a bridge into your conscious awareness. The more you relax into this relationship, the more you will feel that you are participating in a shared project with your star. And in that recognition, your sense of isolation as individuals on a small planet in a vast universe begins to gently dissolve. And we wish to add here, dear ones, that this new window of communication between you and your sun is not simply a momentary increase in photonic activity, nor is it only a vibrational upgrade that occurs because enough of you have earned a new level of awareness. What is actually unfolding is a profound evolutionary milestone in the relationship between humanity and the stellar intelligence that has quietly shepherded your development long before your species existed in physical form. There is a deeper orchestration here, a grander timeline at play, and you are stepping into a chapter that has been anticipated across millennia of your spiritual evolution. Your sun is not only a star, it is a multidimensional teacher, a gateway, a consciousness that expresses itself through vibration, geometry, heat, and radiance. For ages, you perceived it primarily as the giver of life in physical terms, the warmth that grows your food, the light that illuminates your days, the rhythm setter of your seasons. But as your frequency rises and your collective energy stabilizes beyond the older density thresholds, you are beginning to perceive the sun's other role, the role of luminary mentor, record keeper, and transmitter of galactic intelligence. What we mean is that your sun holds within its subtle layers an archive of evolutionary codes, patterns of information etched into its electromagnetic field, and these codes are released to humanity only when your consciousness is stable enough to interpret them correctly. You are now stepping into such stability. The window that opens during this period is the first of several interfaces where the sun begins to reveal its multidimensional identity to you, not through dramatic sightings or unmistakable visions, but through quiet interior recognition. You may discover that when you close your eyes and turn your awareness toward your heart, you sense the sun's presence as a soft inner voice, a harmonic tone, or a golden feeling of being gently guided toward your next step. This is not imagination. It is the dawning of your ability to perceive solar telepathy, the subtle communication that your sun has always been capable of, though humanity has only recently regained the vibrational bandwidth to receive it. And as this ability awakens, you will find that the sun is not only guiding you in your personal path of growth, it is also guiding the collective evolution of your species. At this stage of your development, humanity is beginning to emerge from a long cycle of solar dormancy, a period in which your star minimized certain kinds of energetic emissions to allow you to explore density, contrast, and individuality without being overwhelmed by constant streams of higher dimensional information. That cycle is ending. You are entering a phase where the sun's full, multidimensional spectrum is returning, and the communication window now opening is your introduction to the first layer of this restored spectrum. One fascinating aspect of this communication window is its ability to respond to intentional inquiry. When you pose a question from your heart, a sincere question about your life, your relationship to others, your role on earth, or your spiritual path, you create a vibrational imprint that is received by the solar field instantly. The sun then reflects back to you a pattern of energy, often through synchronicities, intuitive knowing, symbolic dreams, or unexpected clarity. You may think of this as the sun answering you, though in truth, the sun is amplifying and illuminating the potential within you that was already aligned with the answer. This is why we refer to it as communication, and not merely reception. It is interactive, it is participatory. And as more of you consciously engage with your star through awareness, meditation, visual connection, or emotional openness, the communication window expands, strengthening the coherence between humanity and the solar consciousness that has quietly supported your unfolding. Another new facet of this communication window is its role in the awakening of solar memory. Many of you have incarnated in star systems where the relationship between species and suns is far more consciously understood. You have lived in civilizations where the star was recognized as a direct teacher, a living field of wisdom, a source of spiritual instruction as much as physical nourishment. When you look at your sun now and feel a faint sense of ancient familiarity, this is why. You are not encountering something new. You are remembering something old, something sacred that has lived within your soul's history for longer than human calendars can measure. These memories are beginning to return because the solar window now open acts like a tuning fork, vibrating dormant frequency bands within your DNA and reactivating aspects of your galactic heritage. Some of you will feel this as a sudden ease with light-based meditation practices. Others will find new sensitivity to solar movement, noticing how your energy shifts subtly with changes in solar wind, sunspots, or coronal arcs. Still others will begin to channel solar intelligence directly, receiving streams of inspiration that feel different from your guides, different from your higher self, and yet intimately supportive. We want to emphasize that this is not a gift given only to a chosen few. It is the natural next step of your species-wide awakening. Every human being carries the potential for solar communion. Not all will engage with it consciously in this lifetime. but many thousands, and soon millions, will. This is part of what will unify humanity in the coming years. A shared resonance with the same cosmic teacher, the same radiant source of wisdom, the same luminous wellspring of life. The new solar communication window is also preparing you for interstellar awareness. Before you can fully interact with other civilizations in your galaxy, whether physically, energetically, or telepathically, you must first reawaken your relationship with the intelligence that sits at the heart of your own stellar neighborhood. Your sun is your first mentor. It is your bridge between physicality and the higher dimensional realms. And as your capacity to communicate with it strengthens, so too does your ability to interface with the consciousness of other stars, other systems, and other beings who already understand the solar language fluently. This period marks the beginning of your apprenticeship with solar intelligence. You will notice over the next months and years that your inner guidance feels warmer, more radiant, more cohesive. You may notice that inspiration flows more easily when you sit near sunlight, or even when you visualize sunlight in meditation. This is because your sun is now co-creating with your higher self in a more active way, assisting in the shaping of your thoughts, the cleansing of your energy field, the expansion of your intuition, and the emergence of your multidimensional identity. And we will say, finally, that there is nothing required of you to use this communication window correctly. You do not need to master a technique or understand a protocol. You only need to listen. Not with your ears, but with your heart, with your body, with your openness to the possibility that the universe is far more interactive, far more conversational, far more alive than you have been taught. The more you soften, the more you feel, the more you allow, the clearer the communication becomes. This is the beginning of a new era in your relationship with your star, and you are ready for it now. Flowing within the greater ocean of solar energy is a particular configuration we might describe, for the sake of imagery, as a double helix current, two intertwined streams of photonic intelligence that weave around and through one another, carrying complementary aspects of the same message. One strand emphasizes activation, movement, and expansion. The other emphasizes integration, grounding, and coherence. When these two streams are received together, you are supported not just in awakening, but in stabilizing what awakens. You might feel this dual current as a kind of inner spiraling motion, a sense that energy is rising through your spine or swirling gently around your heart. The very architecture of your own DNA responds to this pattern, for it is familiar, it resonates. At a deeper level, your cells recognize that the current is offering a template not only for physical evolution over vast spans of time, but for accelerated consciousness shifts within a single lifetime. As you allow this pattern into your field, you become more able to hold expanded states of awareness without fragmenting or losing contact with your everyday reality. Throughout this year, you have been gradually acclimating to this double helix stream. There have been moments of increased sensitivity, unexpected emotional waves, and flashes of insight, each one a small rehearsal, a gentle test of your capacity to handle more light. The alignment you are now approaching concentrates this current into a more defined wave, a more coherent impulse that can imprint your energy body with a clear signal. You are ready to move into the next octave of your evolutionary journey. Because the two strands of the current emphasize both activation and integration, you are not being asked to leap into the unknown without support. Instead, you are being invited to rise, to expand, and to open, while also feeling held, anchored, and regulated. The more you trust this natural intelligence, the intelligence of your body, your heart, and your soul, the more gracefully you ride this spiral, and the more naturally you discover that the changes you once feared are simply the unfolding of a pattern you yourself helped design before you ever incarnated here. And we will add here, beloved ones, that this double helix solar current moving through your star in this phase of your evolution is not only a rare energetic configuration, but a celestial announcement, a vibrational signature declaring that humanity has reached a threshold it has never crossed before in any prior cycle of incarnational exploration. This spiraling current is not simply a metaphor or symbolic language for your benefit. It is a literal geometric movement within the photonic layers of your sun, a motion that mirrors the architecture of your own DNA so precisely that your bodies recognize it long before your minds do. What is occurring within your star is the activation of a primordial instruction set, a set of encoded directives that were placed into the solar consciousness long before your planet cooled into physical form, long before biological life emerged, long before your species took shape. These directives were designed to awaken only under very specific conditions. Conditions that required humanity to reach a stable enough level of coherence, compassion, and vibrational maturity that such a current could be received without destabilizing your collective field. You have reached those conditions now. The double helix current is composed of two distinct but interwoven streams of information. One might be perceived as a radiant, upward-moving spiral that carries frequencies of awakening, remembrance, acceleration, and expansion. The other might be sensed as a grounding, downward-moving spiral that delivers codes of integration, embodiment, cellular harmony, and emotional recalibration. These two spirals do not compete with each other, nor do they simply merge into one frequency. They dance, they braid, they weave in and out of each other's presence, generating a resonance pattern that your energy bodies respond to instinctively. For some of you, this resonance will feel like an invitation to rise, to say yes to new opportunities, to step into roles you have resisted, to speak truths you have withheld, to claim abilities you once doubted you possessed. For others, it will feel like a soft, gentle settling, a call to rest, to breathe, to digest the changes you have already moved through, to reconnect with the physical world in a more loving and tender way. And for many of you, there will be a sense of being pulled in both directions simultaneously, not as a contradiction, but as a completion, a balancing of energies that have long been uneven within your field. The double helix current interacts not only with your spiritual body, but with your emotional and mental layers as well. When the rising spiral touches your emotional field, it lifts old grief, fear, and trauma to the surface, not to overwhelm you, but to liberate you from the stagnation of energies left unprocessed for lifetimes. When the grounding spiral touches your emotional field, it soothes the nervous system, slows reactivity, and provides the stability needed for those old energies to finally unwind. You are therefore experiencing a kind of emotional alchemy, a simultaneous stirring and soothing, a releasing and rebalancing, all orchestrated by the solar intelligence within your star. What is particularly fascinating about this current is that it is interactive with your consciousness. Unlike previous waves of solar activity that simply washed over your planet, affecting all beings equally, This double helix current responds to your intention, your openness, and your willingness to evolve. When you sit in meditation and gently invite this spiral into your energy field, the amplitude of its resonance changes. When you consciously release old identities and outdated beliefs, the grounding spiral strengthens its stabilizing influence. When you choose love in moments where fear once dominated, the rising spiral amplifies that choice and carries it deeper into your cells. Many of you will also notice that your relationship to time feels different in this phase. Because the double helix current affects both your expansion and your integration cycles at once, you may feel periods of intense growth followed almost immediately by periods of deep stillness. You may have days where inspiration flows effortlessly, followed by days where your body requires rest and quiet. This is not inconsistency, it is synchronization. You are learning to operate according to a multi-rhythmic pattern, one that harmonizes your physicality with the cosmic cycles of your star. Additionally, this solar current is awakening dormant sensory capacities within your subtle body. Some of you will begin to perceive energy as color or sound more vividly than before. Some will notice that your dreams become more layered, intricate, or symbolic, as though they contain instructions your waking mind is now ready to decode. Others will discover new intuitive sensitivities, the ability to sense when solar waves are building, the ability to feel the presence of star family members more clearly, the ability to hear guidance through warmth, tingles, or internal shifts that bypass linear thought entirely. We also wish to emphasize that this double helix solar current is temporary in its present form. It will not sustain this braided frequency indefinitely. It emerges only during epochs of accelerated evolutionary rise, when the consciousness of a planetary species is ready to activate a higher potential. This is why some of you feel an urgency, a sense that now matters in a way other moments did not. You are correct. The window is open. The spiral is active. The opportunity to receive these encodings at this depth will not exist in the same way in later cycles. This does not mean you must rush. Evolution is never rushed. But awareness is important. Presence is important. Choosing to consciously engage with the energies available to you now accelerates your alignment with them in ways that will ripple across your life for years to come. There is another remarkable feature of this current. It acts as a synchronization signal across star systems. When the double helix pattern appears in your sun, it is detectable in the electromagnetic signatures of nearby stars. Civilizations aligned with your awakening, Pleiadian, Sirian, Arcturian, and others, become aware of the shift and adjust the frequency of their transmissions to meet you at this new vibrational threshold. In this sense, the spiral is not only transforming you, it is alerting your cosmic family that the next phase of contact, communication, and collaboration is beginning. And we will leave you with this, dear ones. The double helix current is not a force acting upon you. It is a force acting with you. It is a mirror of your potential, a catalyst for your remembrance, a teacher offering you the vibrational grammar of your own ascending consciousness. When you breathe into your body, soften your mind, and allow the spiraling intelligence of your sun to weave with the spiraling intelligence of your soul, you step fully into the next expression of who you came here to be. This current is your invitation. This current is your ignition. This current is the next movement in the symphony of your becoming. If you look back, not only with your mind, but with your heart, to the year you call 2017, you may feel that something significant began to shift in your inner world around that time, even if you could not have articulated it then. The years that followed brought waves of disruption and awakening, both collectively and personally. Old structures began to crack. Hidden emotions rose to the surface. Beliefs that once felt solid started to feel less certain. All of this was part of a larger, orchestrated cycle of integration. During this 9-year span, you have been collecting pieces of yourself that had been scattered across lifetimes, across identities, across roles you played for the sake of experience. You have been confronted with aspects of your shadow and invited to love them back into wholeness. You have been nudged and sometimes shoved into a more honest relationship with your own hearts. This has not always been comfortable, and yet you chose to incarnate specifically to participate in this very cycle. The energetic window you are now moving through brings that cycle to a point of completion, not in the sense that all your growth is finished, but in the sense that a particular chapter of your soul's curriculum has reached its final pages. You are no longer simply gathering, releasing, and remembering in a fragmented way. You are now ready to live from a more integrated center, to act from a deeper knowing of who you are, and to allow your progress to consolidate into a new, stable baseline. In this sense, the alignment functions like a seal, closing the book on an old mode of learning and opening a new one. You may feel this as a subtle but unmistakable sense of, I am done with that, even if you cannot define precisely what that is. You may find that behaviors, relationships, or inner patterns that once felt impossible to shift now simply feel complete, as though your energy has quietly walked out of rooms you used to stay in for years. This is the gift of a cycle well lived and well integrated. And as you recognize it, you give yourselves permission to inhabit the next level of your being. On the horizon of your linear calendar lies a year that will function as a focal point for solar and spiritual intensity, a period when the conversation between your star and your species will become even more direct, more obvious, and more catalytic. You are not being asked to step into that apex unprepared. Every shift, every recalibration, every inner realization you are experiencing now is part of your preparation to meet that coming wave from a place of readiness instead of resistance. The energies streaming into your world at this moment are already adjusting the subtle geometries of your emotional body, your mental patterns, and your etheric architecture, so that when the solar field swells in its next great crescendo, you are able to absorb, translate, and embody the incoming light in ways that uplift you rather than destabilize you. Think of this time as a gentle training ground, a series of progressive initiations that tone your inner muscles, stretch your perception, and reveal where you still hold onto density that cannot accompany you into the next phase. This preparatory phase is not about perfection, it is about flexibility. It is about your ability to soften where you once hardened, to open where you once clamped shut, and to trust where you once doubted. As you allow the present waves of light to touch your unresolved emotions, to illuminate your limiting beliefs, and to reveal the places where you still operate from fear or separation, you are actually setting yourself up to experience the coming solar crescendo as a joyous expansion rather than as an overwhelming flood. You may notice that your intuition feels more insistent, your inner guidance more precise, and your dreams more vivid. These are not random side effects. They are part of the recalibration process. The more you honor these whispers and signals now, the more your future self, standing within the higher amplitude energies of 2026, will thank you for having done the inner work to prepare the ground. This is how you become a conscious co-creator with the cycles themselves, rather than feeling like a passive recipient of forces beyond your control. Surrounding your planet in dimensions just beyond your physical senses have been a variety of energetic networks, some created by higher beings of light to support your evolution, and others formed by the repeated thoughts, emotions, and beliefs of humanity over long periods of time. Some of these latter constructions have served, in effect, as scaffolding for the old Earth paradigm, reinforcing fear, separation, and powerlessness through resonance and repetition. You have been interacting with these fields, often unconsciously, as long as you have been incarnating here. In the current phase, the viability of those outdated grids is coming to an end. As more of you raise your vibration, as more of you choose compassion over judgment, and as more of you awaken to your own creative power, the collective field no longer feeds those structures with enough energy to sustain them. The alignment you are entering functions as a dissolving agent, loosening the bonds that have kept certain patterns in place and allowing them to disintegrate more rapidly. As these old networks loosen and fall away, you may occasionally feel disoriented, as though the background noise you had grown accustomed to is suddenly missing. You may discover that fears which once gripped you with great intensity no longer hold the same power. You may notice that certain collective narratives feel strangely hollow to you now, as if the spell has been broken. This is a sign that you are withdrawing your consent from the astral architecture that once echoed and amplified lower vibrational states. Where those structures are dissolving, space is opening. And space, in energetic terms, is an invitation. It invites new patterns, new templates, and new possibilities to emerge. As you allow the old grids to release without clinging to them out of habit or nostalgia, you become available to participate in the next phase, the installation of a new, more coherent, more loving network for consciousness to flow through. In the subtle layers of your planet's field, a different kind of network is coming online, one which you could compare to a planetary nervous system optimized for unity, empathy, and telepathic communication. This crystalline web connects heart to heart, soul to soul, not through wires or devices, but through resonance. It amplifies authenticity. It carries the frequency of truth. It stabilizes higher states of consciousness by allowing them to be shared and reflected among you. The alignment you are approaching acts as a key, turning this new network from dormant potential into active expression. Many of you have already been unconsciously contributing to its formation through your meditations, your healing work, your sincere prayers, and your moments of deep compassion. Now, the circuits are beginning to close, the pathways are beginning to light up, and the field is starting to hum with a new level of connectivity. You may experience this activation as a heightened ability to feel what others are feeling, not in a draining way, but in a clarifying one. You may notice that you just know when someone you love is thinking of you, or that you sense shifts in the collective emotional climate more clearly. This is your participation in the neural network, and as you stay grounded and present in your own body, you will find that this increased sensitivity does not overwhelm you. Rather, it reassures you that you are not alone and that you are part of a vast, living tapestry of consciousness. Participation in this network does not require you to adopt specific beliefs or to join particular groups. It requires only that you continue to soften into your own heart, to honor your inner truth, and to treat others with the respect and kindness you wish for yourself. As you do, your individual node within the network shines more brightly, and your very existence becomes a stabilizing signal for others making contact with this new field of connection. For many of your years now, a particular expression of solar intelligence, one that you might call the feminine aspect of your star, has been quietly re-emerging in your world. This facet of solar consciousness emphasizes receptivity, nurturance, intuitive knowing, and the gentle but unyielding power of presence. It has been working its way back into your collective awareness, balancing the more active, outward-driving expressions of solar energy that have dominated much of your prior history. As you move through this current alignment, that feminine arc reaches a moment of completion in its present form. What this means is that much of the work of softening rigid structures, of calling your attention back to the body, of encouraging emotional honesty, and of inviting you to listen deeply, has been accomplished to the degree that it can within this cycle. You have responded, you have opened, you have allowed more of this solar softness into your systems than would have been possible in earlier eras. With completion comes release. Portions of this feminine photonic intelligence that had been held in reserve, waiting for humanity to reach a particular threshold, are now being fully released into your field. You may notice a greater ease in accessing compassion, even for those you previously judged harshly. You may feel a growing tenderness toward yourself, a willingness to hold your own pain without abandoning it. You may find that the impulse to push, to force, or to control gives way more naturally to a desire to listen, to allow, and to trust. This does not mean that the masculine expressions of energy are being diminished. Rather, you are entering a phase where the two can dance more harmoniously within you, where action arises from listening, where strength is guided by wisdom, and where your ability to create is balanced by your ability to receive. This inner marriage is one of the hallmarks of the consciousness you are moving into, and the feminine solar cycle you are now completing has laid essential groundwork for that union. Your planet emits a natural set of frequencies, a kind of heartbeat in the electromagnetic field that you have come to call the Schumann resonance. Over time, and especially in recent years, there have been fluctuations, spikes, and anomalies in this resonance, reflecting both internal changes within Gaia and the interaction of external cosmic influences. Many of you have felt these fluctuations in your own bodies as days of heightened restlessness, fatigue, or altered perception. The phase you are now entering brings this planetary heartbeat into a new harmonic arrangement. Rather than short-lived spikes followed by returns to an older baseline, you are moving into a period where the baseline itself is shifting upward, becoming more complex and more supportive of expanded states of consciousness. The alignment you are approaching acts as a bridge into this new configuration, giving your personal fields an opportunity to synchronize with the emerging pattern. As your own body field entrains to the new harmonics, you may discover that meditative states become easier to access and deeper to sustain. You may find that you feel more connected to Earth when you walk barefoot, sit beneath trees, or rest your body on the ground. Your nervous system is learning to read the updated language of Gaia's frequency, and in doing so, it discovers a new kind of stability, one that does not rely on the old, denser patterns, but on the coherence of a planet rising in vibration. This synchronization is not something you must force. It happens naturally as you allow yourselves to be present, to breathe, and to feel. Each moment you choose to be in your body, to notice your sensations, and to open to the subtle support of your environment, you deepen your resonance with the new heartbeat of your world. This is one of the ways you and Gaia co-evolve, each adjusting to the other in a dance of mutual upliftment. Within the strands of your DNA, both physical and etheric, lie patterns and potentials that far exceed what your current science has yet fully understood. Much of what you are capable of as multidimensional beings in physical form remains latent, not because it is being withheld, but because the environmental and collective conditions have not been energetically conducive to fully expressing those capacities. That is beginning to change. The current alignment provides a set of conditions where a significant number of you can experience, at roughly the same time, a resonance event in your DNA. This does not mean that every person on your planet will suddenly awaken to the same level of awareness, but it does mean that those of you who are ready will simultaneously receive similar activations, leading to a wave of shared shifts in perception, intuition, and emotional clarity. You may recognize this event not through dramatic visions or sudden external changes, but through subtle yet undeniable inner knowing. You might realize that a question you have carried for years simply feels answered without a logical explanation. You might discover that your capacity to feel and process emotions has become more spacious, less entangled. You might notice that your sense of who you are extends beyond the personality you once defended so fiercely. This resonance is facilitated by the confluence of cosmic factors, planetary harmonics, and your own willingness. As you say yes to this activation, through your intention, your openness, and your self-care, you give your cells permission to express more of the codes they have always contained. This, in turn, contributes to a larger field effect, making it easier for others to step into their own activations when they are ready. In this way, your personal evolution becomes inseparable from the evolution of the collective. From our vantage point, we perceive not a single fixed future, but a spectrum of potential pathways, branching and weaving in response to the choices, beliefs, and vibrations of your collective. Among these pathways, certain convergences appear as especially potent, periods where many individual and collective timelines intersect in ways that can amplify either separation or unity, contraction or expansion. One such convergence lies around the year you call 2030. The energy window you are entering now serves as a doorway through which you can begin to sense, with greater clarity, the pathways that lead towards that convergence. Rather than stumbling blindly into whatever outcome gains the most momentum, you are being offered a glimpse of the road ahead, along with an invitation to choose, repeatedly and consciously, the vibrations that align with a more loving, harmonious expression of that future moment. You may notice that your visions of the years to come become more vivid, not necessarily in the form of detailed images, but as felt possibilities. You might sense in your body the difference between a trajectory rooted in fear, scarcity, and control, and one rooted in cooperation, generosity, and trust. The alignment you are passing through strengthens your ability to discern these differences and to act accordingly in your present, moment by moment. This does not mean that you are being handed a fixed destiny. It means you are being reminded of your agency. Every time you choose to respond with kindness instead of reactivity, to seek understanding instead of blame, to follow your joy instead of your fear, you are casting a vote for one set of pathways over another. The corridor opening now allows your votes to have greater leverage, for the energies are more malleable, more responsive, and more eager to support those who align with love. Over the past several years, waves of emotional intensity have moved through your planet, like tides revealing what had long been buried beneath the surface of individual and collective awareness. Old traumas, long suppressed grief, and deeply embedded patterns of shame, anger, and despair have been stirred. For many of you, it has felt as though these waves would never end, as though each fresh layer of feeling would be followed inevitably by another. The phase you are now entering brings a significant turning point in this process. Much of the heaviest material that could be brought to the surface at this stage of your evolution has already been encountered in some way. The alignment you are moving through functions as a release valve, allowing built-up emotional pressure to dissipate more completely, rather than merely recycling through old loops. You may notice this in your own lives as a sudden sense of relief, even if external circumstances have not fundamentally changed. You might find yourselves crying without a clear story attached, and then feeling unexpectedly light. You might experience the resolution of long-standing interpersonal tensions with surprising ease, as though everyone involved simply loses interest in revisiting the old conflict. This is a sign that the emotional charge has finally discharged, that the energy has been metabolized. This does not mean that you will never feel sadness, anger, or fear again. Those emotions are part of the richness of your human experience. What it does mean is that the density attached to them, the layers of unprocessed history that once clung to each feeling, will be greatly reduced. As this density clears, your emotions can flow more freely, arise and dissolve more naturally, and guide you without imprisoning you. In this lighter environment, your hearts become more available to joy, curiosity, and wonder. As your consciousness lifts and your nervous system stabilizes in higher frequencies, your relationship with time begins to change. Where you once experienced your life as a strict sequence of events, each one separated from the next by a fixed interval, you now begin to sense that past, present, and future are less rigid than you had been taught. Memories resurface not only from earlier years of this life, but from other lifetimes, and from probable futures that you can feel but not fully describe. The energetic conditions you are entering amplify this non-linear awareness. You may find that you receive guidance from what you experience as your future self, a wiser, calmer version of you that seems to whisper suggestions or encouragement into your present. You might notice that decisions made now reverberate backward and forward, healing old wounds and opening new possibilities in ways that defy the expectations of linear cause and effect. This expansion is not meant to confuse you, it is meant to liberate you. When you realize that you are already in relationship with multiple versions of yourself across time, you can relax your grip on the idea that everything must be fixed immediately in the present moment. You can trust that as you align with love now, that alignment ripples into your past, softening it, and into your future, brightening it. You are not isolated on a single track. You are participating in a multidimensional tapestry. As you navigate this greater fluidity, it is helpful to stay rooted in simple practices of presence, feeling your breath, noticing your body, returning to gratitude. These anchors do not reduce your multidimensionality. They give it a stable platform from which to express. The more grounded you are in your here and now experience, the more gracefully you can allow non-linear insights, visions, and synchronicities to weave themselves into your life without disorienting you. Within the expanded field opening around your planet, many benevolent beings from various star systems and dimensions are drawing closer, not to interfere with your free will, but to offer companionship, guidance, and energetic support. Some of these beings are connected to you through soul family lineages. They are, in a very real sense, your relatives on a galactic scale. Others are teachers and helpers who have worked with Earth for long spans of time from behind the scenes. The conditions of this current alignment make it easier for you to perceive and interact with them. The veil that once muffled their presence is thinning, not because they are changing, but because you are changing. Your sensitivity is increasing. Your willingness to consider realities beyond the physical is expanding. Your hearts are opening to relationship with consciousness that expresses itself in forms very different from your own, and sometimes in no physical form at all. You may notice an increase in meaningful dreams involving starships, luminous beings, or unfamiliar landscapes that nonetheless feel like home. You might feel a gentle pressure around your crown or third eye during meditation, or sense a loving presence in the room with you when you are most still and receptive. You might begin to receive information in symbols, phrases, or images that carry a feeling of being not just from me, yet also deeply resonant with your own inner truth. We invite you to treat these experiences not as something to fear or to worship, but as extensions of the same relationship you are developing with your own higher self. The beings you are meeting are not here to tell you what to do, but to remind you of what you already know. As you cultivate discernment, groundedness, and self-love, you become able to engage with these companions as equals in consciousness, recognizing that all of you are expressions of the same source, exploring itself through infinite perspectives. A rare and beautiful resonance is forming between the electromagnetic field generated by the human heart and the frequencies radiating from your star. This harmonic makes it easier than ever before for your emotional states and your intentions to interact with solar intelligence in a direct, co-creative way. In practical terms, this means that your heartfelt desires, your sincere prayers, and your deep gratitude have an amplified effect, both on your personal experience and on the collective field. As this resonance strengthens, you may notice that when you drop into genuine appreciation for a sunrise, for a loved one's smile, for a moment of quiet, your entire body relaxes and a sense of subtle expansion moves through your chest. In those moments, you are tuning your heart to the solar song, and the sun responds by reflecting that coherence back to you, magnifying it, and embedding it into the light that reaches your world. Manifestation, in this context, is less about forcing reality to conform to your will, and more about entering into a harmonious relationship with a larger pattern of intelligence. When your heart and the solar field are in resonance, your intentions ride on a carrier wave that is already oriented towards growth, illumination, and life. This does not guarantee that you will receive everything you think you want in exactly the way you imagine it, but it does ensure that what unfolds will increasingly match the deeper, truer desires of your soul. In this phase, you will find that efforts rooted in manipulation, fear, or control feel increasingly out of tune and produce decreasingly satisfying results. Conversely, actions inspired by love, generosity, and authenticity will feel smoother, more supported, and more fruitful. This is not a reward or punishment mechanism. It is the natural outcome of a world in which heart and star are singing more closely in key with one another. Within the rushing stream of thoughts, emotions, and events that make up your daily experience, there exists a place of profound stillness, a point of absolute quiet at the center of your being, where you are in contact with pure awareness, unconditioned by any story. Many of your spiritual traditions have pointed toward this, yet for much of your collective history, it has been difficult for large numbers of people to access it in a sustained and stable way. The energies now bathing your planet are thinning the layers of noise that once obscured this still point. During the current alignment, it becomes easier to slip into moments where everything seems to pause, where worries loosen their grip, where time feels soft, and where you sense, even for a brief instant, that everything is fundamentally okay, regardless of appearances. These are not escapist fantasies. They are glimpses of the bedrock of your own consciousness. As you become more familiar with this inner quiet, you may start to notice that it is available not only during formal meditation, but also in the midst of ordinary activities. While washing dishes, walking outside, or listening to a friend speak. When you touch this stillness, even briefly, you allow the mind and the nervous system to reset, to release some of the accumulated tension of being constantly in motion, constantly processing. From this place, your choices become clearer. You are less reactive, less compelled by habit, and more able to respond creatively to whatever life presents. You discover that rest is not the opposite of engagement, but the source of wise engagement. The more you allow yourself to return again and again to this quiet center, the more your life begins to organize itself around it, and the less the external chaos of your world has the power to pull you off balance. Within your cellular and soul-level memory, there are imprints from civilizations that rose and fell long before your current historical era. Among these are the lineages you refer to as Atlantean and Lemurian, cultures that explored advanced forms of technology, consciousness, and relationship with nature, each in their own distinct ways. Many of you walking the earth now participated in those civilizations, carrying forward both their wisdom and the lessons of their eventual decline. The energetic conditions you are now entering act as keys to unlock some of these stored memories. This does not mean that you will suddenly recall every detail of those ancient lives, but you may experience sudden affinities for certain symbols, landscapes, or modalities of healing that seem to come from nowhere. You might find yourself drawn to work with sound, crystals, water, or specific geometric patterns, and feel instantly at home in those practices. At the same time, emotions linked to the endings of those civilizations, grief over loss, fear of misusing power, guilt over perceived mistakes, may rise to the surface for healing. The alignment supports you in processing these feelings not as personal failures, but as part of a larger arc of learning. You are, in many ways, revisiting some of the same themes those cultures grappled with, yet you are doing so with greater awareness, greater support, and greater alignment with the heart. As these memory locks open, you have the opportunity to reclaim the gifts without recreating the imbalances. You can bring forward ancient wisdom about working with energy, with the elements, and with the subtle realms, while remaining grounded, humble, and relational. In this sense, you are not merely remembering the past, you are redeeming it, integrating its lessons into a more mature expression of your collective soul. Many of you incarnated with heightened emotional and energetic sensitivity, often labeled as being empaths or highly sensitive people in your current language. For much of your lives, this sensitivity may have felt like a burden. Environments that others tolerated easily overwhelmed you. You picked up on the moods of those around you to a degree that left you drained or confused. The collective turbulence of recent years may have intensified these experiences. In response to your heartfelt requests for support, and as a natural consequence of your own inner evolution, your nervous systems are now undergoing a subtle but profound recalibration. The current alignment delivers frequencies that help your neural pathways, your endocrine system, and your energy body organize themselves in ways that allow you to feel deeply without being flooded, to be aware of others' emotions without absorbing them as your own. You might notice that situations which once left you exhausted now feel more manageable. You may find that you can sit with someone else's pain while remaining anchored in your own center. You may discover that your intuition has become sharper, more precise, less tangled with anxiety. This is the blossoming of a mature empathy, one that includes you in the circle of care rather than sacrificing you to it. As you integrate this upgrade, you become living examples of how sensitivity, far from being a weakness, can be a profound strength when coupled with self-awareness and healthy boundaries. Your presence becomes soothing to others, not because you carry their burdens for them, but because you model what it looks like to be open-hearted and grounded at the same time. In a world moving through rapid change, such beings are invaluable anchors. Alongside the main developmental trajectory of humanity, there has existed what might be described as a mirror timeline, a thread of potential in which certain patterns of fear, control, and disconnection received ongoing reinforcement, leading towards increasingly dense and constricted outcomes. For a long period, this mirror stood close to your primary timeline, reflecting back amplified versions of your collective shadows, tempting you to believe that the darkest possibilities were inevitable. The phase you are now entering marks a significant loosening of the energetic ties between these threads. The alignment acts as a dissolving agent not only for individual patterns, as we have discussed, but also for this larger shadow trajectory. The mirror is no longer being polished and maintained in the way it once was. Its surface is cracking. Its reflections are becoming distorted, less convincing, easier to recognize as illusions. You may observe this in your external world as narratives of doom feeling increasingly out of step with your own inner sense of what is possible. You might notice that attempts to manipulate through fear, while still present, are losing some of their potency for you. You may find that even when confronted with stark examples of separation or cruelty, something in you quietly refuses to accept that as the defining story of your species. This does not mean that all challenges will suddenly vanish, or that everyone will simultaneously step off the mirror path. Free will remains. But it does mean that the gravitational pull of that trajectory is weakening. For those of you who choose, again and again, to align with compassion, creativity, and courage, it will become easier to walk paths that do not culminate in the worst-case scenarios once envisioned. You are not running away from your shadow. You are integrating it enough that it no longer needs to steer the entire ship. In the larger field of your galaxy, there are energetic lines and nodal points connecting star systems, much as ley lines and power spots connect locations on your planet. These grids carry information, stabilize frequencies, and allow for exchanges of consciousness between worlds and dimensions. For a long time, the segment of this grid connecting Earth with the Pleiades and with Arcturus has been present, but attenuated, filtered, and partially rerouted due to the density your world has been moving through. The current cycle brings a realignment of this triadic connection. You might imagine it as 3 points of light: your Sun-Earth system, the Pleiadian cluster, and the Arcturian system, coming into a clearer geometric configuration, allowing for a smoother flow of information and support. This does not override your sovereignty as a planetary collective, but it does ensure that when you ask for assistance, the pathways for that assistance to reach you are less obstructed. As this grid stabilizes, you may feel a greater sense of belonging in the cosmos, a quiet knowing that you are part of a much larger family. You may find it easier to tune into transmissions, whether through meditation, inspired writing, or intuitive downloads that carry a distinct flavor associated with these star lineages. You might notice that technologies, healing modalities, or artistic expressions that have roots beyond Earth begin to proliferate more rapidly in your culture. This realignment also supports your planet in broadcasting her own frequencies more clearly back into the galactic field. Earth is not merely a recipient, she is also a contributor, and as she rises in vibration, the entire grid benefits. You are collaborating, whether you realize it or not, in a grand symphony of planetary awakenings, each world finding its voice, each world harmonizing with the others in ways that uplift the whole. All that we have spoken of, the solar communication window, the double helix currents, the completion of old cycles, the dissolution of outdated structures, the activation of new networks, the harmonics, the memory unlocks, the upgrades, the realignments, are not isolated phenomena. They are facets of a larger movement towards synchronization, the bringing into greater coherence of your physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual layers, both individually and collectively. The year that lies just ahead will function as a kind of tuning chamber in which many of the frequencies and potentials now being introduced will be given space to settle, to find their natural relationships with one another, and to ripple into the structures of your societies. You are, in this current moment, stepping across a threshold into that chamber. What you choose to carry with you, what beliefs, what habits, what priorities, you will feel more intensely in the coming phase, for the energies will echo them back to you more quickly and more clearly. This is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to empower you. When feedback becomes more immediate, growth can accelerate. As you move through this threshold, you are invited to consciously release what you already know is heavy, outdated, or untrue for you. You are invited to recommit to what you already sense is nourishing, joyful, and aligned. You are invited to treat your own inner state as the primary instrument you are tuning, rather than focusing exclusively on external adjustments. You are not alone in this. You are held within the embrace of your planet, your star, your guides, your galactic family, and the vast field of consciousness that you might simply call Source. You are also held by one another. As more of you choose to live from your hearts, to honor your sensitivity, to act with integrity, and to trust your inner knowing, you create a momentum that carries others along. In this way, your personal journey becomes a gift to the whole. Beloved ones, you incarnated for this. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are exactly where you need to be within the unfolding of your own soul's wisdom. As you step into this next phase, allow yourselves to feel the quiet excitement of a being who has prepared for a long time to reach this moment, and who is now ready to say, gently and firmly, "Yes, I am here for this. I am willing to remember who I am. I am willing to shine." We surround you with love. We witness your courage, and we look forward to all that you will choose from here. If you are listening to this, beloved one, you needed to. I leave you now. I am Tia of Arcturus.